Hey YouTube, Kai here, checking in with another video. Hey, today we got Why Everybody Hates Ice Spice new album. I haven't heard the album. I didn't even know she dropped the album, but I heard it's short. I heard it's like 23 minutes, right? I heard the songs is no longer than 2 minutes. It's like 10 songs. The features, I heard she got like a couple features on there. But I heard from sources saying that the album is her debut album, right? So I'm asking questions like, okay, as a debut album, like, did we learn anything about her? The answer is no. Do people not understand when you putting out an album, we supposed to learn something about you? What have you been doing? Like, if especially if this is your introduction, who are you to this point? What trials and tribulations you've been through? Like, what do we know about you? It's us learning about you. Especially like an artist like an Ice Spice, who we don't know nothing about you. What school you went to? What's going on with your upbringing? Like, these are things you can put out in your album. Niggas don't. This is the difference between the artistry, like people that love being a musician, that wanted to grind and been grinding to be a musician, to people that's popular, that record they one song, two songs, get notoriety, and then now it's up from there. You don't understand the craft. But let's kind of get into this review.
Now, after having so much pressure to finally put out a full-length album, Ice Spice has released her debut studio LP, Y2K, and now with this project, as it marks the moment where it is finally Ice Spice's time to prove what type of artist she really is and see if she can really cement her foot within the future of the genre. In the biggest moment of her career so far, and in one of the most anticipated debut albums rap has seen in quite a while. With the stage never being brighter, Ice has crumbled with this pressure on her, and everyone is taking notice right now, as with this album, it is one of the biggest musical train wrecks we have seen in quite some time, as it just falls flat in almost every single possible category. But in all seriousness, this probably shouldn't have been a surprise when you consider how the rollout for this album focused on everything but the actual value of the music, and instead of trying to create hype to uplift the upcoming body of work and prepare listeners for what to expect based on the actual music on it, Ice and her team were more focused on creating ridiculous and detached moments that actually steered away from her music as much as possible. As from coming out and acting like you're dating Central C and stole him from his girlfriend, which we eventually found out was a marketing stunt, to a ridiculous stream with Kai Cenat that, while garnered a lot of attention, did not once even focus on the album itself and just made more meaningless content for people to view and then forget about right after. Every single moment of the rollout for this project felt so inorganic, manipulative, and like they were trying to trick us into caring about this.
Do Shorty got two fucking
Felt
phone
so
cases?
inorganic, manipulative, and like they were trying to trick us into
Real kid shit, like, bruh, it's a fucking phone case. Like, who gives a fuck? Like, what the fuck are we showing
caring
on
about
phone cases? Are you saying that, yeah, I need to have a phone case on your phone? Like, what the fuck? Retarded, bruh. Like, retarded. Like,
this record instead of just getting us genuinely excited for it. But at the same time of all of this, if the actual Y2K album we got was the best thing that Ice and her team could have came up with, maybe this was their only strategy to try to make people care about this thing, because on this album, even for the standards of the type of music Ice Spice makes, it is so thoughtless and depraved of any sort of personality that it's not just a bad look for Ice Spice and everyone who brought this thing to life.
Wow, I just built the most amazing workflow on Monday.com.
You build your own workflow? Why?
But it looks awful for the entire current state of the music industry. Because with an artist who has been promoted as one of the biggest rising stars in the music industry, and who has been backed by some of the biggest players in the entire music world, with all of this clearly on top of the massive budget behind her, with all of the press and promotion she has been receiving, which most artists can't get a fraction of, If with superstar connections and all of the help you could possibly need from the industry still makes for an album with lyrics like this, really poses a jarring question about what is really going on behind the scenes in the industry and just how hard the music world is trying to scam us into loving these artists with limited repertoires and their aggressively low effort creations which do everything aside from just giving us good music. So now the reason why Y2K is causing people to bash it this hard and is really going to put irreversible damage on Ice Spice's career and reputation is because the album isn't just carelessly put together, but it genuinely does not offer anything of note to its listeners, as through 10 tracks that somehow only span for 23 minutes, which again, just from the runtime alone, shows you how quickly and carelessly these songs were slapped together to just make some sort of a respectable track length. It's clear that this album was not designed to tell any sort of story or to put us into any sort of world, as despite this title of Y2K being advertised as this big theme and universe for the music, very similar to the way Travis Scott built up projects like Utopia and Astroworld. Despite all of the branding and hyping up this name for months, there is not one reference to the Y2K movement or the 2000s decade as a whole, which makes this title just as disposable as every other part of it and making all of this even.
That's what I just, bro. For one, why would you name your album Y2K? Like, who's around y'all to train y'all to be media savvy? Like, bro, if you're gonna drop an album, your album should be focused on the time and place of life, or like, bro, you just dropped the album called Y2K and then not have one reference. It only got to be a reference. Like I said, bro, this is a debut album. Niggas should know who the fuck you are. Let's look at this. Let's look at this track list. Track 1, Fat Butt. Track 2, Oh Shh, featuring Travis Scott. Track 3, what's that say? Soda? Poda? I don't even know what that says, bruh. B, I'm Packing. Gunna. Bruh, what? Plenty Sun. Did It the First. BB Bet. Thank You to Fart. Give Me a Light. And what's that? TT. I don't even know what that says, bruh. What is any of this? Like, bro, who learned something about you in these songs, bruh? Who learned anything about your upbringing? Who learned anything about you as a woman? Who learned anything about your future? Like, dang, what you want to do in the future? Where you see yourself? The titles don't make sense. Like, bro, are these throwaways? Are you just sitting in the studio and a person just giving you songs? You're like, oh yeah, I like these songs, huh? Y'all all sitting around like, huh? Yeah, these are strong songs right here. Like, how y'all coming up with these concepts, bruh? Mo, that's what I'm saying. Like, you got these niggas that don't know nothing about the music industry. They jump into music. Why not just be an influencer? Why not be an influencer? Like, why not just be Cassinet? Like, why not just be Cassinet? Like, what's wrong with that? You can be big in your own way, but why go to the music industry where you don't know nothing about music? It wasn't something that you wanted to do, because look at how you coming off, bro. This shit don't even make sense, bro. Like, come on. This shit don't even make sense, Mo.
Even worse. At the most basic level of music, the album can't even do a decent job at creating mindlessly fun music for the speakers and clubs, but instead reveals more over its runtime that it was only created to try and rack up the most buzz and virality in the most low effort way possible, and as all the decent viral trends end up starting unintentionally, and in music especially from random moments that most artists would have never guessed would have become those golden 7 seconds. For Ice Spice and Y2K, almost every single song is trying to crack the TikTok algorithm. And from the flow of the project to how forced and unnatural both the sonic and lyrical direction feel, as it seems like Ice Spice is just trying to chase virality more and more with each second. Listening to this thing will probably give you a headache, and making all of this even worse, it does not stop here. As with some artists who sell out, at least they try to capture these moments in kind of new ways, but for Ice Spice, she just keeps repeating the same formula over and over again, and more than ever on this very record. She proves one of her biggest criticism to be absolutely true, which is that all of her songs sound the same, because through all of these 10 tracks, Every beat is constructed within the same TikTok-coded confines, and it ends up creating such a redundant structure and flow, and as the only thing more generic than the production is Ice herself, who has shown no improvement as a lyricist since tracks like Munch and Bikini Bottom dropped, and obviously nobody's asking her to do something insane, but at the bare minimum, I think everybody just wants to see something kind of interesting here, or at the least, some sort of low-grade lyricism that pushes the parameters of the lane she can create in a little bit, but here, we don't get any of that, and matter of fact, we get 23 minutes of some of the worst lyrical performances of the entire decade so far. And with lyrics like this trying to be passed off as something so much greater and something that should be on the headline of major music publications, I think any type of listener, no matter what type of music you like, can safely say that Ice Spice has actually regressed as a writer, because where once her one-liners and punchlines, while never anything crazy, were somewhat witty and at the very least, made it very clear what their appeal was. Now they have gone so juvenile and mind-numbing that it genuinely makes you wonder what is going on, because with the redundant bathroom humor and lyrics on this album, which after hearing the same type of gross bars on so many songs just makes this thing all the more repulsive and makes you question how anybody seriously could have allowed an album like this to release, unless they fundamentally don't respect the intelligence of their audience. And now with all these factors working to make this album an abyss of the most redundant and painstaking music out there, it really just leaves you looking at Ice Spice and everything she stands for at this point, and if you weren't tired of what she was doing already, this is just showing more than ever that Ice Spice and whoever is behind her team have really just been trying to squeeze the absolute most, at this point virtually nothing, and this really exposes a larger problem with the music industry at large right now. Because as Ice Spice's songs don't seem to be made in a studio, but actually in a boardroom, and as a result, they feel like musical equations where only a few different things are plugged out to make them distinguishable, but because they play it so safe and follow the same tropes, they are doing nothing to push the grain forward, and overall, they keep banging on the same thing over and over again despite people showing that they are already tired of this. And despite trying to use some big name features to break up this problem on the album, even with a personality as prolific as Travis Scott, while this feature is entertaining and has some good bars, with the generic type beat production Ice Spice uses, it is not even worth listening to more than once, and with other features on the album, even with a rapper who has been as hot as Gunna, he can do nothing to help enrich the musical environment here, and with the Central C collab did it first. While the beat is a little more interesting than everything else on this album, which is just the absolute worst. And their chemistry makes for a fun collab as they have a pretty decent back and forth here, as these artists faked an entire relationship to promote this track and were pulling ridiculous antics every second to remind us about this. Now that they revealed that this was all to lead us on to care more about this collab than anyone ever would, it just adds another layer of inauthenticity to this album, which leaves listeners with an even more spoiled taste in their mouth, as every single moment of this record just feels so inorganic, and at the end of the day, this is the overlying problem with Y2K. I mean, there is music that is bad because an artist is failing to translate their ideas into quality, but with this album, this would actually make it much better, because as it stands, it's just an offensive gimmick of an LP.
She's trash. The Pink Panther girl, I think that's her name. She's trash.
That is trying to pass as a full-length body of work, and in an era where attention spans are
This whole like new wave of music, like, is garbage as fuck, like garbage. And I'm not even saying that on no hating shit, like, cause you got some good like new up and coming artists. Like, let me just go to my Apple. Like, I like the Florida Wave, like the Young and Aces, the J. Breezes, the Wobbles with the Choppers. Like, you could, like, listen, okay. The J. Breezy, he just dropped a project. Still Playing in the Shadows. The whole joint is pain. Like, real pain. He's talking about something. And this right here is 23 songs. It's an hour and 5 minutes long, bro. Like, he talking about something. Bruh. You got artists like Skrilla. Like, Underworld. A whole dark theme. Like, it's nothing wrong with It's nothing wrong with being an up and coming artist, but it's being passionate about what you're doing. When you're not passionate about something, you just think that you hit a lick. Yeah, I'm just gonna do music because I know like I'm gonna get paid for this. You better off just being an influencer. Like, what's wrong with that? Like, I don't understand. What's wrong with being an influencer?
Already super low, and it seems like people are caring less and less about the album format. This just hurts the entire culture of music to newer generations, as it is showing people that the value of the album has never been lower, and for this reason. And for the insistent bathroom humor, tired out beats, and painfully bad writing. Y2K is a joke of an experience that even when it comes to meeting the bar of just making palatable and decently exciting New York hip-hop, which in the mainstream scene in 2024 is not a very high bar. Ice Spice couldn't even do this, and as we have seen this experiment crash, and we are seeing an album that is trying to sell people an expired product failed. While it's embarrassing to the people who tried to prop up Ice Spice as something greater than she ever was, at least now, this is an instance where we have seen bad music actually fail to even make a dent in the industry, and now at this point, hopefully no other younger artists, especially ones who are heavily backed by the industry, try to come with a project this weak and offensive to its audience, and try to pass it off as something more than filler garbage. So with all that said, let me know, what do you think of Ice Spice's Y2K? I can't wait to hear what you have to say, and if you want to see how Drake tried coming back from Kendrick Lamar again on 2 new songs, and how it didn't go in his favor, check out the suggested video.
Hey, yeah, baby.